Welcome into the latest edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. I'm Sam Gormley. He's Mick Nelson. Mick, how's it going? How are things in Northern Kentucky?
They're going pretty good today. We're coming off of a victory finally, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We didn't even get one in the preseason. We haven't had a victory show in a long time.
And the weather's is kind of turning too. Like it was nice and like 75 today.
Okay, that's good. Okay, you're not. Are you cold? Like, do you want it to be cold?
No. I like this weather. Like 75 is like my sweet spot, I would say.
I was gonna say I know you don't, because at games you don't particularly enjoy it when it gets very, very cold. But I don't know that I'm kind of with you. Like on Sunday, I think the weather is looking at like 78 at kickoff. Like, give me that year round. Like, that's even maybe just a little warm. But I like on Sunday when we made the trip to Charlotte, it was really nice weather. When the sun came out, it was a little warm, but overall, considering it's late September in North Carolina, almost South Carolina, it felt really, really good. Coming up on the show today, we are going to recap the Bengals win against the Panthers as we were in attendance. We're going to talk a little bit about our trip. I don't know about you, Mick, but I had a really good time. So I think it'll be good for us to talk about some of the things that we saw and more with that. And then big game on Sunday. And this is a really, really big game for the Bengals to take on the Ravens at Paycor Stadium. And the Ravens are a team that are really interesting because I had a preconceived conception of them because I've watched them a couple of times this year. But when I dove into some of the stats and stuff, I don't know if my opinion has changed. I feel like it's morphed in a way, if you get what I'm saying with that. And we can talk about that as well. But we invite you to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're also on Twitter. We're also on your favorite podcasting platform as well. But as we mentioned, Mick and I were at the game on Sunday as we traveled to beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina, as the Bengals took on the Panthers. And I think, Mick, we should first start with saying on Saturday night, we made the trip to the Protagonist Brewery, where Bengal Jim and his squad put together a watch party, and it was technically a watch party for the Ohio State-Michigan State game, which Mick and I could not have cared less about. And then Bengal get together, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah. There was a ton of people over at Protagonist. A lot of them came out to tailgate at Bengal Gyms on Sunday as well. But yeah, the event at Protagonist was good. The beer was good. The pizza was there's a lot of cheese on it, which I'm not going to complain about. And then they did play the Ohio State Michigan State game on every TV. That was bad. That wasn't good. Like,
yeah,
I get it's a bunch of Ohio State fans, but like the game of the year was on Sunday or was on Saturday, and it wasn't Ohio State Michigan State. It was Bama and Georgia, and that wasn't on any TVs.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. I was hoping that we'd get at least one because I would have found a comfy chair right by it, and I'd have sat there and I'd have watched pretty much every snap of that game. But still, it was a really good time that night, and then we got some cookout, which is always going to make me very happy. If you've never been to cookout, that's a Carolinas special. There's a couple in Kentucky, I know. I don't think they're all. I think they're kind of
all. No, I think they're like all throughout the South, like Carolina, Virginia. There's one in Huntington. I know that.
Yeah, there's one in Richmond. There's one in Lexington. There's one in Bowling Green. Absolutely. Mick is not an SEC elitist.
Why the hell is there not one here? That's a big question. Like, why is there not a cookout in the Cincinnati area? Like, there's one literally an hour away from us. Like, just get one over here.
Yeah, there's one opening in Louisville, and then there's one in Bowling Green that I went to quite often. And then on Sunday, you mentioned it, Mick, we tailgated with Bengal Jim. And, we've been tailgating for a couple of years now, as far as consistently for every single game. That might have been my favorite tailgate that I've been to. I don't really know why, but I think it was just because there were so many Bengals fans. And I think it being in a different city and it being kind of it was a good sized parking lot that Bengal Gym had, but yet we were kind of like entrapped. You get what I'm saying there? And I think that just kind of made it more fun. It was an awesome experience at the tailgate.
Yeah, no, I think we showed Charlotte how to party over at Bengal Gyms. It was a really fun time. Good beer again from Protagonist was at the tailgate on Sunday as well. Um, yeah, it was just a great Bengal Gyms tailgate per usual.
When we pulled into park outside of the tailgate, the guy who was running the parking lot attendant, which Mick, I wish we would have gotten his name because we absolutely have to give him a shout out on the podcast. But your wife might actually have his name because she paid him like via Zelle or whatever. So we almost have to give him a shout out. But he mentioned to us pretty much saying something along the lines of he thought he was in Cincinnati with the amount of Bengal fans that were there. And he wasn't wrong. When we parked, and Mick and I always talk about this when we go to games in Cincinnati, is I always like to know how long it takes for us when we park and start walking downtown, how long it takes to see a fan from another team. And it depends. Sometimes we walk right onto the street corner, and like on Sunday, we're going to walk right on the street corner. We're going to see a Ravens fan within 15 to 20 seconds. I guarantee it.
I feel like if out of all the teams we play within the division, like the Ravens fans are the ones I don't see that much of.
I guess because it's the furthest.
Yep. I mean, that makes sense.
But and then the Patriots, it took a little bit more time because they didn't think they were going to win that game. Commanders, a little bit of time, but then there were quite a few Commanders fans as well there. But on Sunday, when we walked out, it took a while for us to see any Panthers fans. And that was weird, being a home game for them, and it was almost like we were in Cincinnati. There is no theme on Sunday for the game.
Yeah, I don't think there's a theme.
They are
Garrick.
Yeah, Garrick. They are doing the black jerseys with orange pants. Is the get up for Sunday. And I know when we talked about this, Mick, I said I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that jersey, and I'm still not sure. But luckily, by next week, I'll have an opinion on it because I need to see it in person. Because the all orange, it is the crucial catch game too, as Lisa says. So there's not, and I think Garrick, you might have been asking if there's like a color theme, and there's not. But it is a cancer awareness game as well, for sure. I got to wear my cancer hat too. I have to remember that. But as far as in the stadium, I know we were talking about this. You said you thought Bank of America Stadium was better than Paycor. And maybe a little bit. And I think that they're very similar. I don't think it was drastically better than Paycor Stadium. To me, the three stadiums that I've now been to, which is the Titans, the Panthers, and the Bengals, are all three pretty similar. I've not been to any stadium that makes me go, wow, that's a great stadium.
Yeah, no, I just like that I think it was a little bit cleaner than Paycor is, because I don't know if Paycor is the most well-maintained stadium that I've ever, stepped foot in, especially comparing it to the other stadium on the riverfront in Great American Ballpark. So comparing it to Bank of America Stadium, I think was a little bit nicer, cleaner. I think it had some nice little accents to it. I liked the Panther statues out in front. Those are pretty cool to look at. Now there's some things the Bengals do better, which is what do you think? The fight song for the Panthers is pretty loud. that thing was lame. That song was I was like, am I watching a Kids Bop concert? Like, I don't know.
Mick, we got to talk about our friends that sat in front of us too.
Oh yeah. So the stadium. And I'm guessing because they didn't have enough people showing up to generate crowd noise, right? Probably in the past couple of years. So the stadium encourages Panthers fans, if they have an empty seat next to them, just on third downs, instead of just screaming, just slam the seat of the chair to the back of the chair.
As hard as you absolutely can.
Repeatedly.
Uh-huh.
And I guess every stadium has their thing. Carolina's got chair smacking. Mississippi State's got the cowbells, right? We just have screaming, I guess.
And we had in front of us, it was a lady who was older and her daughter who were there. And they were very nice. Like, they were very friendly. There was some bantering, but we're the opposing fans in the home stadium. we'd probably do the same thing at Paycor. It was friendly banter for the most part, all things considered. But it was just funny because we were sitting there and we missed the bet. And all of a sudden, you hear the guy and he kind of does what they do at Paycor, it's third down. And all of a sudden she bends over and just goes, Lisa, she says, define older.
She was like in her 80s, at least.
Yeah. She was probably late 70s, early 80s or so on. And she just bends over, and I'm saying just quack, 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 just starts beating on this chair. And I know we all looked at one another, your wife, and I think we were like, what are we? Okay.
Yeah, I thought these were just like two random fans that were just deciding to do it. And then like I went to go sit with my dad, who was also at the game. And he was like, yeah, it's encouraged by the stadium. Like I saw it on the Jumbotron a few times telling them to smack their chairs or whatever. I was like, that's nuts. That's crazy. Crazy talk.
As far as in-game environment, though, because this is something that I think, 5 years ago at Paycor Stadium. Now, part of this is the talent on the field and having something to cheer for. But as far as like the in-game things, when there's a timeout, that was one of my complaints for Carolina is that there weren't really much fan interaction, so on. I know that they did like the Krispy Kreme donut giveaway, which was ironically enough like 10 rows behind us. They picked a random row in the stadium, and we were, 10 rows behind us maybe, if that. Mm-hmm. And they all got like a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. And I know you were about to move up into that row to hopefully snag a section of Krispy Kreme donuts. But that would be my one complaint. But the most important thing, and we can go into this now as far as the actual game, is that the Bengals won.
Yes.
I know I told you this. I didn't really care what it looked like. As long as the Bengals had at least one more point than the Panthers, I was going to have a happy flight home. And I did. I had a very happy flight home. And I know that somebody said when we got on the plane, because our flight home that night was, what did we leave at Charlotte at like 11 o'clock that night? And our flight was probably 75% Bengals fans?
I would say the flight home was the vast majority were Bengals fans coming back for the game, yeah.
And somebody came on and he goes, man, guys, there's a lot of us on here. Wouldn't this flight suck if we'd have lost? And we were all like, yeah. Yes, it would have. But how about we go into the game itself? And to me, where we have to start with this, as far as main things that we liked as takeaways, and then we'll get into the things that we didn't like, was Joe Burrow. I think he once again had a really solid game. He made the one mistake on the interception, but I know as we talked about Mick when it happened live, that it looked like there was a miscommunication on that play. And it was also one of those that he breaks out of a sack. He's trying to make a play happen. Jamar Chase runs right. He throws it left. Sometimes that happens. Now, if they would have scored on that play, it would have been a dagger earlier on in the game.
Yeah.
But other than that, Burrow was great.
Yeah. Burrow was great. Completed 22 of 31 passes, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you said, he had the pick. I don't think it was really his fault on the interception. I don't think it was Chase's fault either. It's just, you were trying to make a playoff script. Sometimes, you don't have the same brain as the guy you're throwing the ball to in that situation. So it was just an unfortunate interception. Did have an absolute dot of a big-time throw to Andre Yoshavash to help cap off the third touchdown to end the second half. That's probably one of my favorite Joe Burrow throws I've ever seen. Another thing I just really liked, since we talked about the touchdown at the end of the half, and I'm going to start emphasizing this going on. I think I've emphasized it more to you over recent weeks, but it's very important to turn over the half. And what I mean by that, and you can do it.
You're double dip.
You can do it either two ways. Either you get the ball to start the game and you need to be up by at least a touchdown going in before the other team gets the ball in the second half. I mean, that's a good way to turn over the half. Or you end with the ball in the first half, get the ball in the second half, and like you say, you double dip, you get 2 touchdowns in a row, and that's going to be that's essentially what's going to swing the game. And I think it is what swung the game really in the Bengals' favor, was them able to turn over the half with the touchdown. And I think it was just a minute-long drive, too, to end the half there. And then, again, with the opening drive of the second half, capping off with the touchdown pass to Zach Moss. Not Zach Moss, with the touchdown run to Chase Brown in the second half. That was crucial. That was something they had done to them with the Commanders. I think they pretty much double dipped against us in week 3 on Monday Night Football. And that was kind of the turning point of that game. So it's essential to pull that off. And the Bengals did that. And I think that's a huge reason as to why they came away victorious on Sunday.
You mentioned that. It's the first time in the Zach Taylor era that the Bengals have scored a touchdown on the final non-kneel down drive of the first half and again on the opening possession of the second half. They have done 3 times. They have scored touchdowns on their final drive of the first half and the first drive of the second half, but the opponent had a possession in between them. That happened 3 times, but it's the first time that they ever did the true double dip in the Zach Taylor era. And I know we talk a lot about this, and I think it was our main takeaway from the Patriots game a couple of weeks ago was, the middle 8 of the game, which is pretty much what you just mentioned on and just expanding it by a couple of minutes. The last 4 of the first half, first 4 of the second half. Bengals dominated that on Sunday against the Panthers, and that's one of the main reasons that they won the football game. Andrew, we're going to come back because there's a point specifically on that I want to make. I want to come back to what he said too.
Okay. One other thing on Burrow, just noticed this when I was rewatching the game. Had a nice little Aaron Rodgers-esque moment with the hard count late in the fourth quarter. I think that was a huge moment in the game where the Panthers were only down by 1 score, and the Bengals, I think, were on the cusp of getting in the field goal range. And I think that little hard count causing Nick Thurman to get in the neutral zone there, I think that was huge there as well. And I think Burrow is pretty damn good at doing that.
It was his highest PFF grade of the season, his 3rd highest in the last 2 years behind Bills and Niners of last year. Here's something that came out and stood out to me when I was looking through the Joe Burrow era, though, Mick. And this kind of not leads us into the Ravens, but we can kind of come back and talk about this in a little bit. But when Joe Burrow has a game of a PFF grade above 80, every single time in his career and that has happened probably of his career, it has happened at least half, if not more, of his starts. Probably more. But just to give you a perspective as to how many times it has happened. Every single time, except for twice in that scenario, he has strung together that multiple times, which would mean that he would then be in again for it this Sunday against the Ravens. And if you have a quarterback with a PFF grade above 80, I'd love to know the stat, Mick. You're going to win a lot of football games. It's only happened twice that he didn't follow up a good game PFF-wise with another good game. The Chargers in 2021.
Texans last year.
Browns in 2022.
Oh. And also Texans last year, I don't think he had a great game either. And that was a follow-up of that Bills game.
No, I'm gonna have to look at the stats there, at least when I was looking at it earlier. But still, so it's only happened a couple of times. In the Browns game in 2022, you may remember that was their first game without Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit different. Okay, but the Bills game the week before he had the
Niners game. Okay, that's how I'm saying. Okay, you're seeing 2 games in a row,
yes, 2 games in a row, and sometimes he's done it strings like heck. And I had really, when I was looking at this stat, really forgotten, or I guess did not appreciate just how good he was the last 10 or 11 weeks of 2022.
Yeah,
2022
might have been the best quarterback in football while that was going on.
Oh, without question. Andrew says, I know most people couldn't stand his mouth running online, but I would do anything to have Eli Apple back on the defense as well. Remember when he stopped Henry before the half in the playoffs? It was Tyreek Hill that he stopped. I don't think Eli Apple. I don't really think the secondary is as big of an issue, and we'll kind of come back to that a little bit. I don't know that Eli Apple's the fix, though, on this Bengals defense. We were having this discussion either on the plane or at the airport, turnover-worthy plays for Joe Burrow. And he has barely had any. He had his first interception thrown that we talked about a few minutes ago.
But it wasn't a turnover-worthy play.
Which is weird, So a turnover-worthy play is pretty much a stat that is measured by analytics that says you're throwing a pass that probably
Should be picked off.
should be thrown into it. And Joe Burrow has, what, 1 all season?
I think he has 2. I don't know. I don't know if fumbles are included in this stat or not. Because I can't even think of any throws other than the interception that wasn't even a turnover-worthy play where he's like throwing a ball that should have been picked off, I guess. I don't know. I wonder if the 2 were the fumbles, I guess, potentially.
I wonder if they call a tip pass a turnover-worthy play.
I don't think they would.
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, there was one in that game, and there wasn't a turnover-worthy play there. So,
but so it's a very important statistic, and it's good to see him. And then, like Lisa said, this brings us right into the next thing I want to talk about of what I liked: the offensive line. 0 sacks allowed for a Joe Burrow game for the first time in 3 years. Kappa, Orlando Brown, Volson all graded above a 75 for PFF. And I mean, Amarius Mims in his first career start, 53.3. Not necessarily great, but considering that he was going up against one of the best edge rushers of this era of NFL football, I think Mims did pretty good.
Yeah. I thought Mims was okay. Orlando Brown Jr. is starting to look like the guy that we thought we were going to get last year. And watching him just be an absolute anchor on the left side at the left tackle position has been very nice and refreshing to see. I mean, I don't think we've had this good of a season at left tackle probably since Andrew Whitworth was here in 2016. And I know Jonah Williams had 1 or 2 good years in Cincy, but I think Orlando Brown Jr. has more or less been dominant so far this year and has looked great. No sacks were allowed, like you mentioned. According to PFF gradings, top 10 team pass block grade in the Joe Burrow era, and it definitely showed. Didn't look like Joe Burrow was under much duress at all in that game. Again, Cordell Volson had another good game. And I think as long as he's not going up against elite interior defenders, I think he's going to be
as long as you're not playing Chris Jones, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. That's it's funny. His season grade's still not good. It's at a 56, but how much of that is being brought down by the 11 grade that he had against Chris Jones in week 2? That's
against the best interior player in the NFL.
Yeah, who makes a lot of guys look like that. So yeah, I mean, I think Cordell Volson had a good game, and again, Orlando Brown Jr. 0 pressures given up in this game. So yeah, can't say enough good things.
Defensively, there's some stuff that we're gonna have to talk about that we didn't like, but DJ Turner, he came in place of Cam Taylor-Britt. We'll come back to him, but coverage grade-wise, far and away the best game of his career. You know, he's targeted 8 times. Andy Dalton was going at him. 4 catches for 32 yards. That's not bad at all. The opposing quarterback rating, 60.4 when being targeted. He only did that once from week 8 on last season. Anything remotely near that. And he came in big, and it was not good. Andrew asks, too, we can bring it up. How did Cody Ford do? He only had 1 pass blocking snap and graded like a 9, didn't he, Mick?
Yeah, I think he gave up a pressure on his one play that he was out there.
He's not been out there enough to really PFF grading to really tell a lot because he plays so few snaps.
Yeah. But back to DJ Turner. Yeah, I agree. He had a great game. You've already mentioned the statistics there. Had almost an interception on a 50-50 ball in the end zone with, I think it was with Deontay Johnson in the end zone, or maybe it was, apparently it's not Xavier Legette. It's Xavier Legette. I did not know that. So, yeah, he almost had a 50-50 ball in the end zone in the second quarter. Then had a really nice pass defense defending Xavier Legette in the third quarter, where he was just supermaning a pass defense or a pass deflection there. It was on a 2nd and 10 in the third quarter. I think it really I think it was great in stopping that drive and forcing either a 3 and out or a quick punt. I can't remember what it was. But I couldn't say enough good things about DJ Turner. Dax Hill looked good again as well. Gave up 3 receptions on 6 targets for 12 yards, 56.3 passer rating against. I think we have potentially found a long-term corner in Dax Hill, which has been nice to see. And also didn't have any missed tackles yesterday, which, or maybe he had one. He might have had one missed tackle.
Another defensive play, and I think it was you, Andrew, that mentioned it a little bit earlier, was the 0 points in the first quarter, and a lot of that goes to the one play on that first drive, Chris Jenkins. It's 4th down and goal from the 1, wasn't it? Or the 2?
Yeah.
And Chris Jenkins makes the play on the run to hold the Panthers to no points in that first drive of the game. That was huge. Huge in that game. So shout out to Chris Jenkins. In his first real big moment of his career, he came up with a big play.
It was against his dad's former team as well. I think Chris Jenkins Sr. was a longtime Carolina Panther in the early 2000s or during the 2000s era. And I think it was just kind of a nice moment to see from Junior getting that big stop at the goal line there.
Lisa brought up too, we got to give a shout out to Ryan Rico. He has been,
oh man.
In fact, we didn't mention, I guess in the news, Brad Robbins, no longer a Cincinnati Bengal. And honestly, Ryan Rico has been damn good. There's no other way to put it. Really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, sucks for Brad. I hope he gets an opportunity elsewhere at some point.
And he will.
But, I think he will.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rico's just absolutely booting the ball. It's crazy to see punters ripping a punter for this team ripping off 60-yard punts like they're nothing. Because I mean, we didn't see this for. When was the last time we've seen have we ever had like a punter with a big leg? Because Kevin Huber did not have a big leg. I can't remember Kyle Larson enough to gauge whether he had a big leg or not.
I think they thought Drew Chrisman did.
But he didn't have the hang time. That was Chrisman's issue.
Because, I mean, Rico is, and I mean, here's the quote unquote problem with Ryan Rico right now is that he's not like, I guess, and I say problem, and I'm joking when I say this, is he's not punting enough. Like, so his numbers, like the Bengals have punted like the 4th fewest times in the league. So it's weird. Like his stats might be skewed a little bit because he's not punting enough. But I mean, nothing against Ryan Rico, but I hope I never have to see him punt ever. The only time I want to see him on the field is if he's standing next to Evan McPherson, because that usually means something good's happened.
Yeah.
Any other good things that you wanted to mention, or you want to get into some of the bad?
Yeah, we'll mention a couple of good things here. One, run game looked pretty good again for a second straight week. Chase Brown, again, looked great. 15 rushes, 80 yards, had 2 touchdowns in this game. Averaged 4.4 yards after contact, which is just absolutely nuts. Zach Moss, 15 rushes for 51 yards. It was nice seeing a split backfield carry between these two, and I think that we're going to see Chase Brown a lot more as time goes on. Here's where Chase Brown ranks among running backs, and this is with the minimum attempts are 20% of the highest amount of carries somebody has. Chase Brown is 4th in run grade via PFF. 2nd in yards per attempt, 2nd in yards after contact, 18th in elusive rating. So that's where he stands among the two. Another good thing I want to mention, this might be the most evenly balanced offensive attack I've seen in a Zach Taylor coach game. I think we had 31 dropbacks and 31 rushing attempts in this game. So a 50-50 offensive attack, which was just really nice and refreshing to see. Receiving was good too. Eric Hall had another good game. Had an 80 receiving grade, 4 catches on 4 targets for 28 yards. Only ran 10 routes, so he was averaging 2.8 yards per route ran in this game. And that's pretty high, across the league, I guess, on average. Jamar Chase had a vintage catch and run for a touchdown. It was, I think brought a lot of callbacks to the Ravens touchdown he had in his rookie year, where he was just bouncing off of defenders. Now with that touchdown, he has Xavier Woods' poor tackling to thank for that play. So, but it was a nice touchdown to see from Jamar Chase. It was nice to see T. Higgins more involved, caught 6 of 9 targets for 60 yards. Had a really nice contested catch and also converted a few 3rd downs. It was nice to see him. And I think that's all the good that I have in this game.
The not good. Missed tackles.
So I think we need to have a discussion about this.
Okay.
Because this isn't just a problem that the Bengals are facing. Tackling has been an issue through the first 4 weeks of the season league-wide.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at tackling grade by PFF, team tackling grades, they are down across the board by a huge margin compared to what the grading was last year. Now, will it get better because it's early on in the season? Maybe. But how much of it has to do with these hip drop tackles being banned across the league? Are teams just really struggling to get players on the ground across the board? I think it's a fascinating trend that we've witnessed, and discussion to have that we've witnessed over the course of the first month of this season.
Bengals were credited with 10 missed tackles on Sunday against the Panthers. Jermaine Pratt had 3 of them. It's still something, though, that is going to have to get better. You can have some missed tackles, but that 10 double digits, it just can't happen. But it is an interesting point with the hip drop tackles. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would be fascinated in asking Lou Anarumo that question.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that tackling is a problem league wide, and these hip drop tackles being banned. And this is the first season in which they are banned. I just don't see that as a coincidence. I think there is somewhat of a cause and effect aspect to those things.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. And then the other thing I really want to talk about, especially on the defense, is and I touched on it a few minutes ago, is Cam Taylor-Britt. It was far and away his worst game of his career.
Is he playing hurt? Did he get hurt at all during the?
I don't know, but I mean, the Panthers, Andy Dalton, and listen, we love Andy Dalton, had a perfect quarterback rating when targeting him. Perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
And it could have been a lot worse too. I mean, he had an
because he got pulled. Yeah.
Well, in that he had an absolute dime to Deontay Johnson on the second blown coverage by CTB that should have been caught, I think, by Deontay Johnson.
Ironically enough, though, with him, it was the second highest quarterback rating when targeted for him. The second, the worst that he ever had was Carolina in 2022. So maybe it's just something about Carolina.
Carolina's this kryptonite is what
maybe it is. Maybe it is. But what I did like that I heard, and Lou Anarumo said, Paul Dehner Jr. had a really good article in The Athletic yesterday, where Lou Anarumo, after the game, when they all merged to meet in the middle of the field, the two teams, and Lou Anarumo said he was looking to talk to one of the, I guess he knows a coach on the Panther staff, maybe he worked with them or something like that. And before he could find that person, Cam Taylor-Britt came up to him and said, "That's the last time that's going to happen from me."
Back it up, buddy.
Something's going to change now. And I hope that will be the case for him, because the Bengals are going to need him. And Lisa asks here, wonder if Sam Hubbard is still hurt. I think without question he is. And we'll talk more here in a couple of minutes about reinforcements are coming, and I think you will maybe see Sam Hubbard get a week or so to try and recover, because I think that hamstring injury that he had during training camp has to be still nagging him, but also maybe it is just that Father Time's catching up.
There's a chance.
I know we talked about that last week.
Now, Sam Hubbard, I mean, for the absolute horrendous pass rush that he did have a couple of run stops in the game that I think were pretty crucial. He ended up with the 70 run defensive grade, which I think we can all agree has been a strong suit in his career. It's been his MO. So, I mean, he did have some nice plays in the run game, but pass rush across the board was just not good. It wasn't what we needed. Only had 6 pressures, and 2 of those pressures came on blitzes from Logan Wilson. Joseph Osai was really the only competent pass rusher on the team, I think, with the 68 grade. 12.5% pass rush win rate. Hendrickson looked limited again, either from the injury that he sustained against the Commanders, and then I guess I don't think he came back after his neck stinger that he incurred against the Panthers. So I guess the poor play must have been from the injury from the week before. only a pass rush win rate of 9.1%. But the one pass rush where he did cause had a pressure, he did cause the interception from Dalton on the lame duck throw that he had to Von Bell. But pass rush needs to be better, and hopefully it's better when these reinforcements come in. We had guys with 0 pass rush wins on at least 15 pass rush snaps, and those guys were Sam Hubbard, Zach Carter, and J2 Fele. 2 of those guys probably aren't playing much this week. If we can get McKinley Jackson back and MPJ Hill back, hopefully.
You mean Zach Carter's not going to be getting like 40 to 50 snaps?
No? I really hope he doesn't.
I'm waiting for the Zach Carter Mick to wear a Zach Carter jersey. There we go. It's going to happen. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. He's just going to lose his mind. How about that? If Zach Carter wins Defensive Player of the Year, you will have to buy a Zach Carter jersey.
Yeah, I'll do. Hell, if Zach Carter has a game with a grade of 85 or above, I'll buy a Zach Carter jersey.
Okay.
And he has to play. He has to play at least 15 snaps. That's another.
What if he has a game with multiple sacks?
No, because sacks are an overrated stat, I think. I mean, I know that they're nice.
What
if
it's 2 sacks, but one of the sacks is a forced fumble?
No.
Okay. I tried. Any other thing that I know that there's plenty that we could go into that we didn't like, but I also want to make sure that we move on to talk about the Ravens. Is there anything specifically? I mean, the run defense.
I don't know how it graded as good as it did. Like, it ended up having a decent grade across the board team wise, but they did give up 155 yards rushing on 29 carries and gave up a touchdown. They made Chuba Hubbard look like Saquon Barkley out there. I mean, that's
Hubbard's not a bad back by any stretch.
He's not. Also, my wife likes his name. Also, Sam wants to shout out Sir Purr, the Panthers mascot, by the way. She thought Sir Purr looked cute, which kind of did. He's a cute little guy.
I don't even know that I processed Sir Purr.
Well, that's why other Sam was at the game. That's why wife Sam was at the game.
Not Sammy?
No, Sammy. I don't think Sammy. I didn't get Sammy's takes during the game.
Okay, I did see Sir Purr. Okay, I don't remember seeing Sir Purr, but I'm looking at his picture right now. He seems like he's a nice kitty cat. Okay, should we jump into the Ravens here?
Yeah.
I think we've had enough about it, but like Lisa said, the internet is forever. We're gonna hold you to it. I'm ready for Zach Carter to have just the game of his life on Sunday. Gonna have like a 90 grade, 3 or 4 sacks, force a Lamar turnover.
If I'm the one that gives them bulletin board material, I will take all the credit for it.
Oh, listen, I'm fine with that. Ravens and the Bengals on Sunday afternoon. It is the division opener for both teams. In fact, it's the AFC North division opener, which is kind of wild that we're 5 weeks. This is week 5, and there's not been any divisional games in the AFC North. You mentioned it a few minutes ago. Bengals defensive line reinforcements are coming. Myles Murphy, McKinley Jackson, BJ Hill, all back at practice today. Jackson and Murphy were both activated from IR in that 21-day window. And then Trey Hendrickson, because he's a psychopath,
he's
practiced
back
today. He is, listen, I love Zach Taylor was like, I'm not really sure he's going to play this week. And then all of a sudden he comes out there. They were worried apparently about feeling in his body based on that injury. And he had all the feeling and everything, and he's playing. It is absurdity. Trey Hendrickson is a psychopath, and I love it. But the reinforcements are coming, and that is going to be really, really big. Regardless of the opponent, it's big, but even more so when you're going up against the Ravens, who they're okay at running the football, Mick. I mean, they're one of 7 teams since 1970 to average more than 220 rushing yards through the first 4 games. I mean, they're only averaging 6.38 yards per carry, which is the 3rd most since the merger through 4 games. Shout out to Jay Morrison on those stats. I mean, that's it, Mick. I mean, just casual numbers. It's not like they can run the ball.
The Ravens' offenses look pretty darn good. especially running the football. Like you said, Lamar Jackson rushing for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns through 4 weeks. I mean, he's on pace for over 1,200 yards rushing, actually about 1,300 yards rushing on the year. Derrick Henry, I don't even want to get started on him. I don't even think I wrote down his stats, but the dude's just been on an absolute tear. I think he's averaging over 6 yards a carry. Remember when you said that he wasn't going to be as good in this offense?
I just felt Father Time is undefeated, and I felt like Father Time was going to come for him.
Yeah, it did not happen. Oh, yeah, I do have a stat. 6 yards per carry, 480 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Yeah.
We both... Okay, so you had your bad take on the Ravens last year. I have my bad take on the Ravens this year. Look at us. We're even.
But, yeah, the reinforcements couldn't come at a better time, especially when we didn't have them against, I guess, a Lamar Jackson type of quarterback in week 3 against the Commanders, where Jaden Daniels, and I don't know if maybe it's just Jaden Daniels is really good because he also had a great game against the Cardinals on Sunday.
Are the Commanders this year's Texans?
They could be. I think they have the one. They have Noah Brown, so that's a commonality.
They beat the Bengals in a shootout. They had the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, the number 2 overall pick, who has just been
first-year defensive-minded head coach.
Yes,
from the NFC, who has background in the NFC West.
Mm-hmm. Good offensive play caller in Cliff Kingsbury. Not sure what your opinion is, but I think he's good at calling plays. On the offensive side of the ball, maybe not the greatest of head coaches out there, but I think he's pretty creative in the game plans that he puts out, a lot like Bobby Slowick for the Houston Texans. They really might be this year's Texans team. I think there's a good chance that they are, especially if they can get their defense figured out at some point.
So does that mean Caleb Williams is Bryce Young?
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I think I've seen plenty of decent out of Caleb Williams to not think that.
I'm only just saying that because I saw Leroy comment earlier, and now if you want to talk about this offense and you want to say, okay, is there a weak spot? And every offense has it. The offensive line is intriguing because the tackle play actually has not been bad, and they have a really good center in Linderbaum. But it's the guard play, if you're looking grading-wise, has not necessarily been great, which is just an interesting combination that you've got the edges and up the middle good, but in between not as good. And
that's
then
where they see the turnover, too, or they saw a lot of turnover.
Yes, because they lose Zeitler and Simpson.
John Simpson, yeah, and they have who? Andrew Voorhees and
Faalele, or whatever his name is.
Daniel Faalele. Yeah, I mean, that's... Andrews has been underwhelming. Yeah, we talk about Father Time. Father Time might have caught up to Mark Andrews.
Coming off of a decent injury as well.
It's either, I was going to say it's either Father Time or it's Logan Wilson, whichever one, you know.
But they have Isaiah Likely still, who obviously the entire nation was watching as to what he did against the Chiefs. Week 1, I mean, if he decided to wear a smaller shoe, we'd be talking about the Ravens as a favorite to be the 1 seed right now.
Yeah.
But that's not how it happens. Instead, he decided to wear maybe a little bit bigger shoe, or maybe he decided to not clip his toenails before the game. He's probably not going to make that mistake again. He's been really good. I mean, this Ravens offense is where it is. And it is a worry, especially because their strength is the Bengals' weakness, is stopping the run. And it is going to be very, very big that if they can limit that to even, like, okay, here we go.
Bengals went up to under 150 rushing yards is probably like the over-under for success, I would say.
I was even going to ask you, the Bengals win on Sunday. Let's just say that this happens. What is the yards per carry rushing-wise? What does it need to be under for the Bengals to win on Sunday?
At least under 5.5, or
under
really,
5.5.
Really under 5. It would be ideal, but
I think if it's under 5, I think the Bengals win.
And Josh brings up a good point. If you can get turnovers, I mean, that's really what is going to help you the most. I mean,
Lisa has a good suggestion as well. Just lock Derrick Henry up somewhere.
Yeah, just find his hotel room, jam his door.
There you go.
Where he can't get out. obviously hotel windows are sealed, so you're good there.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, just do that. I think I know where they're staying. So not saying I'm going to do it or I'm behind it, but
We know people, right?
I don't know anybody. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was just gonna. Oh, there you go. Lisa's got it.
Okay. Lisa, remember when you said that the internet's written in ink?
I was just gonna put our friend Riley on it. I felt like, I mean, what else has he got going on?
All he has to do is just. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't. Let's talk about the Ravens defense, because the Ravens defense is, and I mentioned it when we were talking earlier, interesting. For one, I guess I had not really processed 33-year-old Kyle Van Noy, second in the NFL in sacks with 6, trailing only Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah. I guess I'd not really processed that he has been quite as good as he has been. But it's really, you've got two different sides to the defense. Their rush defense is really good. Really good. They're allowing only 3 yards attempt on the ground. That's 0.7 yards per attempt better than the next highest on the team in the NFL. That's an absurd number.
Yeah. I think the rushing attack will have a huge test. But per the grading, they're the 3rd best run defense in the league. And let's face it, I mean, I know the Bengals rushing attack has been better this year, but I think they've gone up against 3 fairly poor defensive run defense units in the Commanders, the Panthers, and the Patriots. And the one good run defense they went up against was the Chiefs, and they couldn't really get the ball going in that game on the ground. So that's going to be interesting to see.
They talked about in Burrow's press conference today, and it's something that I guess I had not really sat and thought about. But the Bengals traditionally have run the ball well against the Ravens. I mean, you think last year Joe Mixon had a big game in that Thursday night game that we don't need to talk about what happened. I don't need to go down that road. It's been a positive day so far. But they've had some success running the ball. Now, as Lisa said, their pass defense, that is where they're more susceptible. Adjusted yards per attempt is a good stat to measure when you're looking at defenses. Now, they rank 10th worst in the NFL in that category. So I'm by no means saying that the Bengals are going up against the Commanders secondary or even the Panthers secondary. But it's not like they're going up against who's the best secondary in the NFL right now. It's
probably the Jets.
Yeah. It's not like they're going up against the Jets. So this to me, and we'll talk about keys. This is a Joe Burrow game. Joe Burrow game. And I know you can say that pretty much every game, but this is one that he is really going to have to play well. And if he plays well, the Bengals absolutely have a shot on Sunday.
Yeah. So another thing I want to bring up, we brought up Kyle Van Noy. We got to bring up the other edge rusher who I think is even doing better than Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe. So I think handling both of those guys, and Odafe Owe, he doesn't have the sack numbers, and I think probably because Kyle Van Noy is probably cleaning up from his pressures. But Odafe Owe is quietly putting up a plus 20% pass rush win rate, which is a pretty high rate. Both of them are grading above an 85 in their pass rush grades so far in the season. So I think the offensive line is going to have like their first real test on the edges or at the tackle positions. And Amarius Mims is going to have to, I guess, kind of figure it out quickly. Not to say he didn't play okay against the Panthers or against the Commanders, but who did he really go up against on those two defenses? You went up against Jadeveon Clowney, who's been, I think, hit or miss throughout his entire career. And you went up against, I don't know, Dorrance Armstrong or I don't even know who the Commanders have at edge rusher. That's how strapped they are at that position. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to see is how is Amarius Mims going to handle either Van Noy or Owe or whoever else they send on a blitz on the edge.
Matabike, too, is, I mean, he's a solid interior guy as well, and that's where you're going to see, I know, the Ravens run the 3-4, so he's an edge, but he's also kind of inside and so on. So this is where you're really going to have to rely on Cordell Volson, to have a big game as well, and Alex Kappa. They're going to be huge in this game on Sunday as well. But yeah, good points on the Ravens edge. And I mean, listen, the Ravens are the Ravens. Yes, they don't have McDonald as their defensive coordinator, but it's a disciple as well. You know the Ravens are going to bring good defense. You know that they're going to show things that they haven't shown yet. And you know that the Bengals are going to have to play well. I mean, this is the AFC North.
Yeah.
It's the AFC North. I mean, there's not much more that we really need to be said than just about, welcome to the AFC North.
Yeah. Another thing I want to note is like a key to the game, I guess, is you got to find a way to get pressure on Lamar Jackson. That's another thing. I mean, if you look at the grading this year, and I think this has been a trend throughout his entire career, if you look at Burrow and his grading between being pressured and being kept clean or being blitzed and not being blitzed, whatever you want to call it, you don't see a huge variance in this grading. Whereas Lamar Jackson, and he's kept clean, he has a pass grade of 87 and an offensive grade of 87. When he's under pressure, his pass grade is down to a 47 this year, and his offense grade is to a 59. So if you can find a way to get pressure on him in this game, I think that you're going to force mistakes out of him eventually. That's just something you got to figure out how to do in this game. You didn't get it done against Jaden Daniels, but also you had guys like Zach Carter and J2 Fele and Lawrence Guy playing a lot of snaps on the interior, and Trey was hurt, not getting any pressure.
Lawrence Guy is going to be a great, when we're sitting down in like 4 or 5 years and naming random Bengals, Lawrence Guy is going to be a great pull.
He's like the Riley Reef of the defense.
Yeah, I'm even thinking like, I'm trying to name it. They had that year where they needed a bunch of defense. Christian Covington. Just like those random defensive linemen, or they had the guy the Super Bowl year that they picked up late. I'm trying to remember his name now. He was like 72 or something. Yeah, listen, big Zach Carter game's coming. That's what Lisa says. Who is that now on the Bengals Super Bowl team? Now I got to Google this while we're talking.
Is there a guy with the last name Wynn?
That sounds kind of familiar, but I'm trying to see here of the team while we're talking. Another thing I want to mention too, as far as the Ravens, is Justin Tucker starting to slip a little bit? One of 2 kickers in the NFL to miss at least 3 field goals so far.
I don't know. Maybe he's just catching a bad end of a variance. I don't want to say he's done with his career yet.
Zach Kerr. That's who I was thinking of. Zach Kerr.
From the Cardinals. He played for the Cardinals at one point. Yeah.
And then remember Bengals legend Wyatt Ray?
No.
Wyatt Ray, Bengals legend. But yeah, I just find it very interesting. Anything else that you wanted to talk about here as far as the Ravens, or you want to jump into setting the game up and making some picks and some keys and some MVPs?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on here.
Bengals Ravens 1:00 on CBS. Kevin Harlan and Trent Green will be on the call on CBS, so it's back to the normal channel this week. The referee will be Bill Vinovich, one of the more recognizable.
Old man Bill.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, I looked it up. He's only like 63.
I think he's like the oldest, most tenured ref in the league.
He probably is. Bengals 8-9, and games reffed by Mr. Bill Vinovich. Some notable games. The Vikings last season. I'm just saying the most recent one. Broncos 2014.
Oh,
of course.
Oh, AJ McCarron fumble game.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Lisa.
Was that the snap? Was that the snap?
Wasn't that the Dre Kirkpatrick? No, this is Dre Kirkpatrick. No, this is
2014. Yeah. My bad.
2014. Yeah, you're thinking the year after. No, this is Dre Kirkpatrick intercepts Peyton.
This is Jeremy Hill game. Yeah.
Packers 2005, of course, better known as the Burger King Man game, and then some game against the Chiefs a couple of years ago as well.
Which one?
How about the AFC Championship?
Where we won? Yes. Yeah, because the one we lost was that
Ron Torbert. Yeah. Ron Torbert. Well, I appreciate that, Freddie. Keep following us. We appreciate that. The ruler of the jungle on Sunday is going to be Gabby Marshall. You might be saying, Gabby Marshall, who is that? She played on the Iowa women's basketball team that finishes the runner-up last season. She is a Cincinnati native, so she's friends with Caitlin Clark. At least I assume they're friends, at least former teammates with Caitlin Clark. And I'm interested, though, Caitlin Clark, big Chiefs fan. So I don't know, maybe there was a little competition, but she's also from that area, so I can't necessarily be too mad at her. Okay, it's now time for us to make our pick for Bengals Ravens on Sunday at Paycor Stadium. I'm going to let you go first because I'm that kind of guy.
I think it's going to be a high scoring game, I guess, but I still think the Ravens win by 2 scores. I'm going to go 42-28 Ravens.
Wow.
I do not see how we're going to stop this rushing attack, even with these reinforcements on the field. Even with the reinforcements on the field, I don't think our run defense is that good. Derrick Henry is on an absolute tear. Lamar is on an absolute tear. And I hope Lisa's prediction's right there. But I just don't see it happening this week, unfortunately.
I'm going to take Ravens as well. 31-30.
Oh, God.
31-30. Justin Tucker.
Scoregami? Is that a scoregami?
I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. But it is a Justin Tucker field goal at the gun. Justin Tucker field goal at the gun. And I hope I'm wrong on that. It is not scoregami. At least I'm trying to look it up here on the scoregami website. 31-30. It has happened 24 times. Most recently last year, the Jaguars defeated the Chargers, or I guess this was the year before. That was the choke game.
Playoff game. Yeah,
yes.
Choke game. Yeah.
Yes. 31-30 was the final score of that game. So it's happened. Have the Bengals ever been involved in a game? They have. How did you not remember in 1981 they beat the Jets 31-30, Mick?
Because my father was 6 years old when that game was going on, so I don't even think I would have existed at all, like in any form, in 1981.
MVP too, of course, on Sunday is Zach Carter. Zach Carter, big game coming. It's coming. Big game. It is the Joe Burrow revenge game too. The Joe Burrow revenge game. Ravens fans chanting F Joe Burrow when he got hurt. I'm sure he hadn't forgotten.
Also, shame on the Panthers fans. I don't think we've ever noticed, but during the Mike Hilton injury.
I did.
Or
Trey Hendrickson's. It was Trey Hendrickson's.
Panthers just start chanting.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers. Man, I don't know what the hell they were saying.
Let's go Panthers. Let's go Panthers. What they were chanting.
Yeah, that was cool.
I do too. We didn't mention this, but concessions too. They had a mac and cheese bar.
Ooh, that was pretty good.
Not great.
I thought it was all right.
Mine. I don't know. Mine didn't live up. But what I did find the most interesting point is our friends in front. We'll bring her back up and we can close with her. She went and she got nachos. And what I found intriguing was that they don't have the traditional, because when you think of nachos at a game, you're thinking chips, some jalapenos, and that fake yellow cheese. You know what I'm talking about?
Like Carolina barbecue nachos.
It was like white queso was their nachos. And I was like, oh, like you would get at a Mexican restaurant. And I was like, oh, that actually looks pretty darn good, I was going to say. And I was going to ask if I could have one, but I felt like she might start beating me with the chair if I would have asked that. And I
probably
didn't particularly want it. Yeah, for being small, she was a little scary, Mick. And I saw how bad she beat that chair. I didn't want to take her off.
You talk about the old lady or the younger one?
The older lady.
Yeah, both were kind of scary.
Yes, in their own way. They were friendly. And I think Panthers fans, for the most part, they left us alone.
Yeah, no. I like I said, I think we need to go to like Philly or Green Bay or something to just get absolutely just verbally assaulted for the whole day.
Mm-hmm. See, that's what I mean. Do we have to be verbally abusive to Eagles fans in a couple of weeks?
No, because we're the bigger man. We're bigger people.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Looking forward to it on Sunday, though. Bengals against the Ravens, 1:00 on CBS. Hopeful for a win. Because here's the thing. You win that game, and you're back in it, Mick. It's not been a great start to the season. You're 2-3. You're going into game against the Giants, which will stay on Sunday Night Football too. The deadline to change that was last week. I know that there were some rumors that they might have gone Ravens Commanders instead of Bengals Giants, which they probably should have. I don't know why Bengals Giants is a primetime game anyways.
It's too early in the season for them to change a game out that early, I think.
Well, they did Bengals Chiefs. That was early in 18. Wasn't that like
they did flex them in. Well, yeah, but there were injuries, I think, from the I can't remember who got injured in 18, but there was an injury that happened.
To wrap it all up do you know who the referee was that night? Bill Vinovich.
Bill Vinovich.
Does that mean anything? I hope not, because that was not a good night to be a Bengals fan.
That was awful.
Not a good night. Bengals Ravens, though, remember to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're also on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe and give us a 5-star rating that way as well. We'll be tailgating before the game at Bengal Gyms. I will be part zombie. Mick will be maybe a zombie too, but I will be a zombie based on the week that I've had and going to have. So we look forward to seeing everyone on Sunday and hopefully get a big win. Any parting thoughts, Mick, or you want to close this out?
No, I mean, if you're going to the game on Sunday, hope to see you there. Safe travels if you're traveling. Have a good, safe time at wherever you're tailgating at before the game, whether it's at Bengal Gyms or somewhere in Longworth. Hope you guys have a good time. Can't wait to see a game for a third week in a row. And then I'm kind of happy that we've got 2 weeks off, or 2 or 3 weeks off.
2 weeks off. At Giants, at Browns, and then home against the Eagles. It's fine. I didn't really want to see it in that weekend either. Fine. That'll wrap us up for this week. Hoo day, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Hoo day. Thanks for watching.